Over to you, Bradley.
G'day, Diggers. G'day, TC. Good to be with you, boys. You may have already touched on it, but Varley, we lost another champion yesterday. Derek Chadwick, unfortunately, passed away at the age of 84 yesterday. What a superstar he was, boys. Cricket in the summer, footy in the winter, Diggers. It was a normal thing back then, and he was a beauty, playing a stack of games for East Perth, 269, in fact, TC. Between 59 and 72, best and fairest twice, won the Simpson Medal in the 64 Carnival for WA, third in the Sandover that particular year, and finished top 5 3 times. And of course he played about 65 Shield games for WA. Unfortunately didn't quite get to test level, played for an Australian second 11 in New Zealand, and was averaged around about 30 odd. So what a superstar he was, boys. I don't know if you can recall him. I know you won't, TC, but certainly you would have, Diggers. Derek Chadwick, what a star.
I'll set you up for a little bit of failure there, Brad. Sorry, we've had to go the substitute. Similar haircut, but Shortie's in for Diggers today. But
Shorty, sorry, Shorty.
That's
I didn't
okay,
realise.
Brad. No, that's okay.
I didn't understand.
Yeah,
but you would be certainly aware of Chatty. Yeah,
100%. And our thoughts are with the Chadwick family. A wonderful, incredibly talented man. To be able to play both games to such a high level is a credit to what sort of person he was, but what sort of talent that he possessed, and also how much hard work, Brad. Like, I mean, these days you just don't get the opportunity. The kids are forced to make a decision and go one way or the other. Toddy Breeman's about the last one I can remember that played Shield cricket and AFL football, and he's a fine man too, Toddy. He's probably tuned in this morning. Hello, if he is. It would have been in the maybe late 80s, early 90s, I reckon.
Yeah, early 90s. Probably early 90s. Yeah, early 90s. I think he's a bit younger than me. He's a bit younger than me. He's probably in between you and me, Shorty, I reckon he is. So, you're right. I mean, it was a commonplace. Peter Bedford, Keith Miller, Simon O'Donnell, Tangles Walker, those guys. I mean, Graham Wood and Jeff Marsh, both played footy for South and East, respectively, along with them, playing great cricket for Australia. And in the end, those boys were just on the cusp of you've got to make a decision which way you're going to go. You know. So Craig Bradley was another one, I think. I can recall.
Yeah, you're 100% right.
But we talk about sliding door moments. I don't want to spend too much time because, as you say, Shorty, we do send our sincere condolences to the family and friends of Chadds. But the bottom line is that he had sliding door moments. He debuted TC in 1959 as an 18-year-old. Guess who won the flag that year, TC? East Perth. He didn't quite get in the team. He had to retire in 1972, Shorty. He got a bad kidney injury in that year. And guess who won the flag? East Perth.
Oh,
So,
wow.
So in that, it was a games record holder for East Perth at that stage. Unfortunately, just didn't quite find the right minute to be in the team when they won those flags in those 2 years.
Well, it's still a wonderful CV at the end of it all. And, Brad, the only other player that sprung to mind for me when you started going through, and he didn't get to league level, but I know the great Shane Warne was on the reserves list at St Kilda, I think, as well, before going on to represent Australia and becoming the greatest leg spinner of all time. So it was a possibility back in those days, but for the young fellas now, from around about the age of 13, if they start getting into these squads, you get told it's time to make your mind up and away you go.
Young bloke at Collingwood, Brad, Will Parker, is probably as close because he played a little bit of Shield cricket, but then he obviously had to change to Collingwood and he's played a couple of games there in the AFL, so that's, as close as you're going to get these days probably.
Well, as Shorty touched on, the luminaries that we had, Spud Slater, etc., the real greats. But, if you're fortunate enough, if you're sort of a Keith Miller or the like, and you're good enough, unfortunately, if you were going to England to play cricket, it took you 4 weeks on a boat. So I mean, you know what I mean? I mean, they were robbed of a lot of time to be able to handle that in between. But yeah, it's as you say, very infrequent these days. But some of the greatest names of Australian sport are those guys who are able to do both.
And you think of someone like Elise Perry for the Australian cricket side. She was playing for the women's soccer side for Australia, and then buttering up and playing for the girls' cricket side as well. That's a pretty rare talent right there. And what a career she's gone on to have as well, just quietly phenomenal.
Few names names being thrown out on the text line too. Alex Keith is another one. Did the same thing. He played cricket, and then he's played in the AFL obviously recently. And El Spalding, he played cricket for WA.
The Duke, yes, absolutely. Yeah, he was a star. Yeah. Carl Langdon was a very talented cricketer as well as footballer through that generation.
Summer, I think a few of them.
John Worsfold, Summer played, I think, Australian under-19s cricket for the Oz.
One thing though, Shorty, they weren't as good as you and me in the backyard at Mum's.
I think they might have had me covered there as well, unfortunately, Brad.
Yeah. Plenty going on, boys. Look, there's a lot going on. I'm a bit vehement today, and on Geelong, I think they should be fined, and not because of the Bailey Smith stuff. I mean, that's just typical Chris Scott, coming out on the front foot and hurling the first punch, etc. So they outrageously successful. He did have a good year. There's no problem with that, but you can't. He's trying to separate the two, which you can't really collectively. We do give him a tick for his season on the field, but off the field, got a lot of work to do, and that's where the criticism is coming from in that regard. But where I'm going with this, Shorty, is the fact that TC, you've heard me say many times that you only go out one of two ways, unfortunately, most of the time in AFL football. It's either injured or disappointed. And we saw somebody like a Luke Bruce go out this year, did an ankle, bang, he's injured, right? But then you've got Ted Closey, who's just been delisted by Geelong. That's fine. I get that. Clubs have to make these calls and all of that sort of stuff. Who do you reckon told him that he was no longer required? Do you think it was Andrew Mackey, the footy manager? No. Do you think it was Chris Scott, the coach? No. It was the development coach who said to him, hey, sorry, son, you're no longer required. Seriously. They should be fined. The AFL, not only them, anybody else, any other club that does that, Shorty, should be fined or sanctioned in some way, because that is pitiful. That is why we have a lot of young people who end up, with mental demons and all of that sort of stuff. You can't tell me you can't take 5 minutes out of your precious time to have a chat to the guy and say, listen, unfortunately, you're not in our future. We'd love having you here, etc. Go back or go wherever you want to go and play footy. We'll keep an eye on you, and who knows, That's all it takes.
Sure.
Give them some chance. Don't just send some lackey or underling, to tell the boy that you're no longer required. How pitiful's that?
Well, the least you can do is pay them the respect of speaking to their head coach. Now, I'm pretty sure when a lot of these guys walk in the front door, they are not offered the world, but they're made to feel pretty special, and they're told about what the club can do for them and what their plans look like at the start. If it doesn't work out, pay them the same respect on the way out and say, look, it hasn't quite worked out, young fella. It's not to say that if you work hard on your game, there might be another club that can pick you up. But don't just, as you've touched on, Brad, it's a really deflating moment for a lot of young men that have spent their entire lives trying to get to that point to get an opportunity. So I think it is a really important time. And while it might not seem like much to senior coaches and the like, for the person that's going out the door, I think it's the least you can do is pay them the respect of speaking to the top man on the way out.
Yeah, and look, I heard an instance too over here. Marcus Harris, who obviously plays for Victoria now, the former West Aussie. He was dropped from the one-day team this week for the fixture. Fair enough, that's okay. Approached Chris Rogers and said, well, why didn't you tell me? He said, it's not my job. Seriously? Whose job? This is what you... They talk about relationships. What do they bulltish about every time they come? Oh, such and such. Stephen King, he's a relationship builder, or Craig McRae, he's a great relationship builder. Well, that's part of it. That is part of it.
Respect.
It's all encompassing. Respect, mate.
Yeah.
We've become accustomed with Geelong over the last 15 to 20 years, Brad. They make a lot of the right decisions. But ever since that final siren in the grand final, there's been a handful of occasions just in that short time where it's so un-Geelong-like.
Yeah, well, look, I'm living here, so I get it more than you guys, and you guys probably have a better handle on what's going on over there and such, with your ears to the ground, your tentacles out there. But, they've made a real meal of it, Geelong, this year. Look, they are arrogant to a point where that's why people don't like them. And I think there was a lot of people happy that they didn't win the flag, you know what I mean? Because this is their behaviour. Their best form of defence is to attack, and that's fine. But, you've got to have some humility about you as well. And it's not the first time we've heard these things about Geelong. Anyway, we shall move on. I wanted to talk a little bit about the Eagles because they've obviously got a strategy coming up into the national draft next month, Shorty. They've got a really good hand, 1, 2, 13, 34, 41, 53, 58. They've acquired a few players already, Starcevich, Robertson, Taylor from Richmond. So they're trying to do that. Look, I think that number 2 pick, TC, is still up for grabs. I think it's still up for discussion anyway. I think Essendon are keen, Shorty. I mean, they've got 5, 6 and a few others inside the first round. So, look, if West Coast TC don't go for Dersma, Shorty, I know Essendon want to, so there might be a chance where, maybe 5 goes to West Coast and another in the early 20s, and they get 2 in a later 30s or 40s from West Coast. But the reason they're doing that is because I think they're going to keep 3 or 4 picks back for these to train on players. Maybe what they can see in the pre-season draft. We know that Archie's the best player in the pre-season draft. At the moment, it's a little bit of a stalemate. He wants to go to Adelaide. They'd love to have him, in WA. He wants to live in WA, so there's still a little bit to work through there. But my point is they're going to invite 3 players that I know of anyway, perhaps to train on with them. Harry Schoenberg, who's a 24-year-old TC from Adelaide. He's a mid. He played 62 games for the Crows in 5 years. Finn McRae, 23-year-old from Collingwood, another mid, who played 21 games for the Pies, and Seamus Mitchell, who's a smallish defender. When I say that, 5'11", small these days. He's a 23-year-old from Hawthorn. He played 28 games. So I think you'll keep an eye on those boys' to see if they get at least invited to train with the West Coast in the pre-season, with a view maybe to fill 1 or 2 of those back-end selections of the pre-season draft.
All right. And Oscar Allen had a fair bit to say yesterday. He was on radio over here in Perth. He said a few things, some things that stood out. One of his quotes was, when everything came out publicly with me this year, the level of support I received from different people was probably different than what I expected it to be. Well, that stood out 100%.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we all knew that. I mean, it looked like that was ridiculous. And we touched on it at the time, Shorty. Having him stand out there like a shag on a rock at Mineral Resources Park with whoosher rod and shotgun, smiling and whatever, told what to do. That was we all understood and knew that he was pretty much gone. He met with Brisbane this time last year. So it was pretty well advanced, and you can only keep alive for so long. I mean, we're not conditioned, as we know, like rugby league, where someone might line up for the Bulldogs in round 1 and know damn well they're playing for Penrith next year. We're not ready for that yet. But, and then it was always going to be on the wane, and then he injured himself, and we didn't really hear or see of him, did we, in the last third of the season, TC? Yep. And he was still captain. We were told, he's got a great role to play. He'll be around the club and he'll be cheering the boys on and all that sort of stuff. Well, no. It's very, very hard. We're just not there yet, and I understand it, and I hope he's cleansed himself and got it off his chest, and he can go up to Brisbane and make a fist of it, because I can't wait for the first game between the Eagles and Brisbane, but unfortunately I think Brisbane hold the whip hand.
They certainly do. Just quickly on that, have we learned as an industry and as an AFL sort of fan base, have we taken much away? So this year there's been so much chat about coaches going to meet with players. There's been heat on different players. It's made it awkward for them. Heading into next season, have the AFL or the clubs or the players at least learnt something from this year to say, right, if we're going to catch up, let's do it somewhere incredibly private, well, away from where the cameras can be, and managers maybe need to play a bigger role rather than just the one-on-one with the player themselves. Like, eventually that meeting can take place. But I just thought it was a brutal look right the way throughout the course of the season. And the players have often been the ones that have copped it. I just think a little bit more common sense needs to apply with this heading forward.
Couldn't agree more. And it damages the fabric in a sense, because, if those guys don't happen to make it, and Zach Merritt is a prime example, he's got to go back into that club now. And it's bloody hard. I mean, people say, it'll only be awkward for the first couple of times. Well, let me tell you, once the SH1T hits the fan next year and Essendon aren't going any good, mate, it'll be prime of place. You know what I mean? It'll be up front. Oh, he didn't want to be here, and the club's a mess. You know, all of this sort of stuff. As you say, Shorty, there's a way of doing things. Just as we spoke about the Closey and Geelong situation, there's a way for Oscar Allen and the Lions, and Sam Mitchell and Oscar Allen, and Zach Merritt and Hawthorn, or whatever. There's a way of doing these and conducting these things, and privacy is one thing. You've just got to because if it comes to good, fantastic. Well done. Everybody can learn of it. If it doesn't, well, you don't want people being polarised because they were exploring the market.
Yep. Well, we got 5 days through the off-season, Brad, without sort of contract talk, and then Essendon are going to offer Hawthorn for Josh Weddle $1 million a year.
Yeah, I mean that's a Bulldog ploy with Wilkie. They did exactly the same with Wilkie. After they missed out on Silvani, played both Collingwood and the Bulldogs, and end up down there at 5x900 at St Kilda. They did the same thing with Wilkie. They said, "Oh, okay, we'll offer him 4 years at 1.1." Now Wilkie wasn't on anywhere near that money, and they knew he was a little bit dishevelled because of the numbers that were coming in for Flanders and De Conning and all, and obviously with Isaiah.
Yep.
Yeah, so he was restless. There was no doubt about that. I can tell you to the bank. He and his management re-rang the Bulldogs, because they wanted to force the issue in the end because they weren't happy. And if he had been a free agent, he would have come to the Bulldogs. But that's if you only had whiskers, you'd be your uncle. But the bottom line is, they made St Kilda pay. They raised him $300,000 per annum for a longer period of time than he was already contracted, and he's going to be captain. So I see this effort by Essendon to go after Weddle exactly return a serve of what they did with Merritt. That's what I see with that. Do they really want Weddle? Oh, they'd love him, but are they going to get him? Not a chance.
And in the meantime, they've just jacked his price to a whole new level that they weren't expecting to have to pay. So 1-1, they may well say. In fact, it may be 2-0, given that Zach Merritt's still playing at Essendon next season. So Essendon, a rare victory for them. We'll wait and see how they do perform in season 2026. Much else to report, Brad?
Look, I had a little bit of an idea. I wanted to float with the boys and yourself, Shorty, was, obviously the state of origin. We've announced the coaches and all of that sort of stuff, and, we're trying to drive it forward and whatever. I just thought a nice little touch, going forward, TC, on February 14 next year. In 1977, the first inaugural one was played, of course, and I'd like to see the inclusion of, Mossy and Glendenning, George Young, Ian Miller, Joe McKay, Tony Morley, Bill Valley, Stanley Magro, Jimmy Sewell, those sort of blokes be invited to be part of a cavalcade, maybe even a guard of honour when the boys run out, just to say, righto, let's buy into this. This is where it started. This is where we are now, and we're fair income. You know what I mean? I think it's not going to cost a lot of money, and it's just a little tribute to those guys who, everything's got to start somewhere, doesn't it, Shorty?
I love it.
And 1977, it's nearly 50 years ago. You don't know where you're going if you don't know where you come from.
Well,
I just would have thought that might be a little touch that the West Australian Football Commission can employ next year when the boys run out to hopefully take on the Vicks, which is going to be, there'll be 50, 60,000 there, of course. I think it'd just be a great tribute to those boys who did it in the past. That's
Brad,
all.
If you add something like that to it, Brad, I think you probably add another 5,000 to 10,000 people come along to pay tribute to those guys that represented the state all those years ago, that have meant a lot to so many people and fans over a long period of time. You mentioned a man like Stan Magro there for me. I'd go if it was just Stan in one of those vehicles, to be honest. He was a wonderful guy for football in WA. They've contributed so much, and also for the guys in the side now, for them to have an opportunity to look and say, this is what it's all about. These guys have been there and they've worn the jumper and they've been legends of the game. It's our turn. It's a wonderful pat on the back and a reward for the guys that get picked to play for WA.
Yeah, I agree. Now, whether it's a cavalcade of cars or whether they just form a guard of honour, when the boys run out, I don't mind. As long as they get acknowledged, because, it's very important to remember your past. And I'm big on the nostalgia, and I'm big on the history. And I just think it might be something that they should be able to certainly consider and implement, because I don't think it'll be too hard. Of course, unfortunately, we may have lost a few along the way. But Basil Campbell, he was there too, remember?
Yes,
Basil down.
Absolutely. Bring the helmet. Bring the helmet along.
A lot of these guys were cult figures, and as you say, Shorty, whether you played the game or you were just a fan, we lived it.
Big
we lived
time.
it with them.
Yeah,
you know? And it's great just to cast the memory back, that's all.
And it would help to give them a bit of a kick along as well, relive the moment and recapture, what would have been a special time in their lives.
Well, all the AFL teams, they get the families out there when they run through the banner and line up, alongside the banner. That can't be hard to do.
Exactly. No, exactly right. I get that. And it does lean on me a little bit, but I think these guys are genuine superstars who are underrated, underpaid, under everything, and I think it just to be a great acknowledgement for them by the AFL and the Football Commission to honour those guys. That's all.
There's a bit going on at the Commission, so hopefully they'll be able to get all that in order. Bradley, we'll do it again next week.
Yeah, we spoke about the Moss Street Ferries. They're in a bit of trouble. They're in a bit of strife. Anyway, hopefully they can get themselves out of it. So even though we hate them, Shorty, we still need them in the competition, unfortunately.
Of course we do.
Who are we doing it for today, Brad?
We're doing it for Mort's. He's a ripper. 17 stores. Got to be one near you. Get yourself a big screen TV TC to watch the Cox Plate on the weekend.
Yes.
And don't forget the Nude Nut. He can help you with the finances if you need it. 1-800 100 100. He can do things the banks can't, Shorty. And Frankie Lee at Ross's Auction. He's a champion. He's statewide as well, boys. Happy punting, and I'll look forward to chatting to you next week.
Absolutely. There's Brad Hardie, the 1985 Brownlow medalist. We'll hear from him on TAB Radio on Sunday as well.
Brad Hardie is proudly presented by Retrovision, Loans 123, and Ross's Auctioneers and Valuers. Retrovision, lowest price guaranteed. RAC members save 5%. Loans 123 for all your loan needs. Call Steve Sell on 1-800 100 100. Ross's Auctioneers and Valuers, the leading auctioneering firm in WA.